The Dallas Cowboys need to make some serious changes on offense. We'll explain why on this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. On today's show, we're going to talk about all the issues the Cowboys had on defense. How did they solve them? What's going on with Dak Prescott? But Landon, let's start with some changes that we would like to see on the offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. I know that you have several. What's the first one that you want to talk about?
Well, I think the first thing that we've kind of been harping on a little bit is just either a step away from the running back by committee situation or a heavier dosage of these carries going to Rico Dowdle.
Yeah,
it's just been clear that Rico Dowdle is the better running back as far as carrying the ball in this group. I mean, it's not even really close. And it feels like now we've gotten to the point where, you know, Deuce Vaughn and most of Zeke Elliott's carries are you know, just throwaway carries at this point.
And I want to say with Zeke, I still think Zeke has value as a short yardage runner and as a pass blocker.
But they got to use him. They got to use him. Like that's the thing that's so frustrating to me. And we'll get into a little bit later. But they called two absolutely atrocious 2-point plays in this game.
Oh, I know.
One of which was a sprint out. That if they ever call another sprint out on a 2-point play, I'm going to lose my mind.
It's why give your highest paid quarterback in the league one option to throw the ball?
You're literally reducing your choices in the size of the field when in an area of the field which the field is already compressed. So you look. I mean, and going back to the point that give the ball to Zeke Elliott. Like that's like the one thing you feel like you does do is that if you need 3 yards, Zeke Elliott can probably get you those 3 yards. It's getting the fourth consistently. That's the problem. I think if it's a short yardage situation or a goal line situation, this is what we're paying Zeke Elliott for. Like, give him the ball and let him, like, you know, run behind your Tyler Smith. You know, it's like, I don't know. I think that's what's frustrating for me is that, yes, I think Zeke Smith has a very, very clean, easy to see role on this team. They don't seem to be using him that way. And they seem to be kind of continuing to mix these guys in like a normal running back rotation when, look, it very clearly, if you're going to use all these guys, they should be used in roles. Zeke should be the goal line, occasional third down back. Rico should be your main back, and Deuce Vaughn should sit on the bench until somebody gets hurt and they force him to get on the field.
Yeah. So, I mean, you and I are done with the Deuce Vaughn experience. We were kind of done with it last year. Thought maybe they could find a role. It's gone. Ezekiel Elliott is just not a every down running back, but I do think Rico is your only NFL replacement level running back on this roster, Landon. They just need to use him. I was looking at a chart today from Hayden Winks where he was, it was a chart on rushing success rate and EPA per carry. And Rico was right along the average line. The closest running backs to him were Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, and James Conner. Now, obviously, I don't think he's as good as Jonathan Taylor or Jahmyr Gibbs, but that's kind of the production you're getting when he's carrying the ball. Just let him be the number one running back, and I think some of their problems on offense will take care of themselves.
If you're worried about the long-term, 17-game aspect of that sort of formula with giving Rico too many touches, go get another running back. But don't sit here and try to tell us that that Zeke is of an equal ilk to Rico when they're carrying the ball. It's not happening. And I think, again, Zeke, I think, still has a lot of use for this team. I think we've seen that. Use him appropriately. Go get another third back if you need to mix in, or heck, Give it to the best back that's actually on this team, Hunter Lipke. Give him a couple more carries. Have him have 20 carries a game, 15 receptions. That's what I'm ready for.
So let's talk about Hunter Lipke, not for the whole show, Landon, but just for a couple of minutes. So one of the things that I think the Cowboys have had a problem is identifying who the fifth eligible player is on offense, right? It's CeeDee Lamb, it's Jake Ferguson, it's Brandon Cooks, and then whatever running back is on the field, right? It's just, is it Kevontae Turpin? Is it Jalen Brooks? Is it Hunter Lipke? I'm not saying that Lipke should play all the snaps, but he might be just a better football player than some of the other guys that they've been rotating in, including Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely better than Deuce Vaughn. Look, I mean, my guy basically shook Kyle Hamilton out of his shoes while he was running a 16-yard out route from a wing formation. He's a fullback. Like, yes, start giving this guy opportunities, and they have been, and they've been talking about it for a long time, and they are using him more. And I think that is one area where the trend is actually correct. Like, they are actually using him more, and he's rewarding them for that. So I am excited about that. That is one of the things that I think I wanted to include here. Obviously, I mean, look. You said if it was, I don't know if you want to have him on the field all the time. Obviously, it was up to me. I would have him on the field all the time. I think that they're trending in the right direction with this kind of player. He just is a difficult mismatch player for down rostered players on the defense, right? Like, your last linebacker, your worst linebacker that you start is not going to be able to cover Hunter Lipke out of the backfield. So I just think he's a mismatch in a box, basically. And he can do a lot of different things. And I think, in combination with the kind of disappointing aspect of other elements of this offense that haven't performed, maybe you need to decrease the amount of 3 wide receiver looks and increase more 21 personnel. Not drastically. No. You're still going to play way more, 3 wide receiver looks than anything else, but maybe you just tinker with the deployment of those formations and personnel groupings a little bit more and see what you've got. And I think that's one thing that I would like to see more of it. And again, more 2 tight end too, because I think you could see, as we saw Schoonmaker give you a decent performance, not this week, but last week, give him more opportunities and throw the ball out of those formations, because that's really a successful formation. Throwing the ball out of heavy formations is an EPA bonanza. Just ask any stats.
Well, and that was going to be one of my big changes. I mean, we said this at the same time last year. There were so many first down runs early in this game that got you either no yardage or little yardage. And now you're playing a Ravens defense playing at 2nd and 9. It's impossible to beat the Ravens that way early in these games when they know they can come after you, right? We saw the Cowboys have so much success in the second half of last year when they were aggressive on first down. And that doesn't mean throwing the ball 30 yards down the field on first down, but like, take your 7-yard sit route to Jake Ferguson, right? Like, take a little slant to Jalen Tolbert just to get the offense moving. For whatever reason, it feels like this offense, whenever they can get that first down, they're unstoppable. But sometimes that first down seems like it might as well be 1st and 30 for them, Landon.
Just real quick, I was going to save this for the next segment, but there's plenty to talk about. One of the plays that was really frustrating for me, and not only just for Dak, but just for the offense overall, was, I think it was going around on Twitter yesterday, was the play where it was early in the game. CeeDee Lamb runs a comeback route, and he gets extremely frustrated that the ball doesn't come his way, and he kind of slams down on the ground. He's upset. And on that play, Dak, instead of even looking at CeeDee, he never even looked at CeeDee's way. He throws it into double coverage to Ferguson, who's running a short route in the middle of the field. And that is the 2nd and 9 play that we're talking about, right? Where it's like, it's 2nd and 9 on that play. They are trying to get easy yardage to set up an easy to complete 3rd down, when if they had just run the play, instead of being so myopic on trying to set up an easy 3rd down, if they just run the play naturally, CeeDee Lamb gets your 1st down on 2nd down. And instead what happens is that you get to 3rd and 9, and guess what happens? Your rookie center is just a tick late, coming off of his pass off of a looper. He barely gets a hand on it. The looper sacks Dak, and you don't convert the 1st down. And that's the kind of thing that it's like, that 3rd down is absolutely not Dak's fault at all. Yeah. And not necessarily the 2nd down is completely his fault. But if we were just running the plays normally and being just a little bit more aggressive and not trying to set up for third downs, you can avoid third downs just like all the teams that you've been playing and how they've been avoiding third downs against you.
A lot of problems on offense. I know the defense is a major issue. We'll talk about them next, but I also want to kind of zoom in on Dak Prescott because the stats show that he had an awesome game, but he was not an awesome quarterback in the first 3 quarters of this game. Let's break down Dak Prescott's performance next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are breaking down the all-22 film from the Cowboys' Week 3 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Elena, I want to have a conversation about Dak because Dak was outstanding in the fourth quarter, about as well as you can play the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
Gave the Cowboys a real chance to steal this game between the clock management, the throws, the hurry-up offense. He was brilliant in the first 4 quarters. But I think if he would have played a little bit better in the first 3 quarters, obviously the defense wasn't going to play better, but I think they wouldn't have had such a big hill to climb. How do the Cowboys get Dak to play better early on in some of these games?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is like a thing that's been happening. Like this is not like a new issue or anything like that. Like this, there's been times when Dax has struggled to kind of get going early in these games. Look, and I want to be clear here because I think I've had a lot of conversations on Twitter about this over the last 24 hours. I don't think that Dak is the biggest problem with the offense, like by any stretch of the imagination. But the idea that Dak has played well or that he is beyond criticism is ridiculous, man. Like, and I think Dak would be the first person to tell you that. I think the issue is that he just isn't sharp early. And part of it is like, look, I mean, the guys around him are definitely struggling. The offensive line wasn't perfect. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but yeah, I felt like there was some protection issues, especially early. I think that there has been a lot of talk about a lack of separation from the wide receivers, but I think that's based on an average separation, stat that I think is going around and I don't think is very useful. I think if you watched film, there were definitely opportunities for Dak to get the ball to folks. There were definitely people that were creating some separation that were open. Look, is it like, the Shanahan 49ers? No, he's not like scheming wide open looks all the time, which of course I wish that was the case, but that's not. But it certainly wasn't like nobody was open or that there wasn't any opportunities. I think that, the stuff that I take issue with Dak is in the early part of the game is not even so much, like a bad read or anything like that, because that's going to happen. But it's just that he's not accurate the way he normally is, right? Like there's just so like think about in the first half, you saw all the slants. There were just too many times when he had opportunities to put the ball on the money for a receiver in stride and create yak opportunities. And it feels like the throw, kind of took yak opportunities away.
Well, I think one of them I was thinking to Jake Ferguson down the seam. Now those are a little hard to get yak, after, but he could have easily put that ball in front of Ferguson. Instead, Ferguson had to twist and make really kind of an unbelievable catch. And then on the very next play, they throw a slant to CeeDee Lamb, and that ball is behind CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
I understand why he threw it there because there was a safety coming. But again, it required an unbelievable catch by CeeDee Lamb just to convert for 5 yards there.
That was actually, that was one of the ones where I was like, I understand why that's behind. He's
It
trying
just
to
doesn't need
lead
to
him
be
away.
that far
He's
behind.
maybe not that far behind, right? But there
Yeah.
were other ones where he just missed him. Like he's putting it behind him when the safety did need to be led away. There was the throw to Zeke on third down when Zeke was in the flat. Zeke was wide open. Like if you just get a normal, you put your feet down and throw the ball normally, Zeke catches that and gets a first down. There was another one.
Well, that one, hold on, that one real quick. If you watch that clip on the All 22, Dak is telling, and again, this could just be Dak making an excuse for a bad throw, but he's telling Zeke to like go up the field. I don't know if he thought Zeke should have been like going up to the sideline or to like the marker rather than going out to the flat. Because
even if he did,
that
ball would have been incomplete.
I understand, right? Like,
yeah.
But I do. This is just some of the frustration with this offense is like everything feels a little bit off. I doubt Zeke gets the first down if he's going up the field because he still has 9 yards to go. But even then, it just feels wonky right now.
Even if Zeke had gone up the field, he wouldn't have caught the ball. Like the ball was 10 yards over his head. And again, that's another part of the issue is that like the throws have been like there's at least a throw to Schoonmaker and a throw to Ferguson and maybe another throw to a running back that I'm not remembering that was to the flat where Dak's in a clean pocket and he basically dirts the ball and Ferguson and Schoonmaker in each case had to go to the ground to grab the ball. And again, this is not I don't believe in Dak Prescott party or anything like that. I think the point is that everybody is kind of having their turn in the mistake bucket.
Yes.
And Dak is no different, right? Like,
well, and the other thing is like, if he just had a bad game, all 4 quarters, you could maybe just chalk it up to a bad game, right? But the thing is, like, we saw in the fourth quarter what this offense looks like when it's supposed to be clicking, right? Now, I understand Baltimore was not playing the same type of defense, right? They're playing more of a prevent, don't give up big plays. But we've always seen Dak has been better in those situations where the offense doesn't have to think too much. It's just go, go, go. They're really hard to stop that way.
I'm going to push back a little bit on the Ravens defense part. They were playing hard. And in fact, and not that you weren't suggesting they were playing hard, they were playing bump and run coverage late into the fourth quarter. And so like, I think that part of it is that I think that things started to this is, let me back up. I am actually coming out of watching this tape a little bit encouraged by the offense because I do think that what we've seen is that the Cowboys right now are just a lot more comfortable running a 2-minute offense, running a hurry up offense, because that's what they've been working on the longest, right? That's day one install stuff. That's the stuff that they've been working on the longest. I think what was really encouraging for me, and this is not necessarily a Dak Prescott note, but in the fourth quarter, they ran a ton more 5-man protections and were doing so without really being punished for it. And to me, that feels like the protection was better. The offensive line was blocking better, which I think allowed Dak more opportunities to kind of go down the field and sort of get into a rhythm a little bit, which helped him. So I do think there is a chicken and egg aspect of this with Dak. But I think the problem is that, and I hate to be like this, you get paid to play both types of offense. You get paid to play in the 2-minute offense and, the normal pace of the offense. We have got to find a way for the offense to get in, for Dak to get into rhythm in the course of a normal paced offense. Otherwise, like if we can only score points when we're in hurry up or in 2-minute, man, this is not going to be a good season for the Cowboys.
It's not going to work, right? They don't have the type of defense that can play that style. There are teams out there that have the suffocating defense that will only allow 10 points through 3 quarters.
But even then, the Cowboys had that last year, and it doesn't. At some point, like you have to have an offense that can kill a game in order to win late in the season. Yeah. And so, the Cowboys have got to figure that out. I think they're on the right way because I think they have youth that's getting better, and I think they're figuring out the kind of formula of personnel. But this is what we described in the preseason of the kind of growing pains that this team is going to go through early.
And this was one of the points of the offseason. I think for the Cowboys to be one of these offenses that can consistently grind out yards and score points, they have to be better in the run game. That doesn't mean going out and drafting a running back high, but they just need to be a team that can run the ball when they need to run the ball. And unfortunately, just haven't seen that. They've had almost no success on first down runs, in early game runs, and it's starting to come back to bite them in a big way.
Yeah, and you combine that with the fact that a defense that can't defend the run, and it's just going to put you in a bunch of really bad game scripts that the Cowboys just aren't built to play to win consistently.
No. Let's talk about that defense, because once again, another really ugly performance. Was there anything encouraging coming out of week 3? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you're watching a game and you get a hunch that, hey, this team might win, or hey, that spread's a little bit too high, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. One of the things I love about FanDuel is they have so many player prop bets. So let's say you think that Dak Prescott's going to have a huge game against the Giants in week 4. You can go bet on all of his passing numbers, his passing touchdowns, how many points the Cowboys offense is going to score. It's so much fun. It's so convenient, all on FanDuel. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose, when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out the new Locked On NFL, now with 2 shows every single day. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks you off in the morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Our guy Tony's in a tough spot right now with his Jacksonville Jaguars. So make sure you check out that. I'm sure he's going to be bringing some heat this week. So new Locked On NFL twice a week, or twice a day, all week long. Landon, let's talk about the defense. Where would you like to start here?
I would not like to start here.
Okay,
I would just like to skip the defense and let's move on to something else.
Talk about
can we do a whole 10-minute segment on that watermelon kick instead?
Yeah, Brandon Aubrey might be the MVP of the league right now.
Maybe. Yeah, so I guess where we should start is, look, I think we should put some context in here. We talked about this before the Ravens game, that Lamar Jackson has an incredible record against the NFC because of the kind of unscouted looks that he gives every NFC team. It's a difficult type of offense to prepare for in a week, right? And never see on a multiple game situation. Colleges face these types of offenses on a weekly basis, right? So this is like part of their normal install of defense, and obviously it is part of the NFL game. But building an entire offense around a zone read quarterback is not kind of the norm still, and so a lot of what we saw in this game is not the kind of looks that the Cowboys are going to get. Well, we'll see. Maybe now you will, but I don't think it's the kind of looks that the Cowboys are going to get on a regular basis. So they did absolutely atrociously on all those looks. on any zone read. They were running zone read. They were running zone read with split action, which gave Lamar Jackson a lead blocker in front of him. And they were using a gap exchange system to kind of handle that, which I thought was interesting, and I think other people thought was interesting too.
It's not my favorite way to handle.
It's an old school way of doing things for sure, right? And so. And really, I mean, I was trying to remember the timing of this, and my brain is, just mush now. But I feel like a lot of what the zone read is based on exploiting the gap exchange run fit system. So it was a little surprising to see that, and that's clearly what they were doing, where the defensive end is crashing down every single time, and the linebacker is responsible for the keeper. And I think the problem was, first of all, the linebacker no matter who it was, seemed a little bit late getting to the outside, which, is not surprising. It's Lamar Jackson who has the football. Yeah. He's tough to beat outside. And then on top of that, since they were using so much split action, like basically gave Lamar a natural lead blocker on the outside. And all you need is one lead block. He doesn't even have to block you. All Lamar has to do is play peekaboo with that lead blocker, and then he's got the angle and he's gone. So there were a ton of those plays where they got big gains from Lamar running it or from all the focus put on Lamar and then losing track of the running back. And then the other big thing for me was missed tackles, man. Just brutal. Almost all of the big plays created in this game were due to a missed tackle at some point that should have been an easy tackle by someone.
Yep.
Even with, come on, the Derrick Henry guy, I get it. It's Derrick Henry. You're a professional football player. If you meet him in the hole, you need to tackle him, man. I think that was the two main glaring things of the defense, but there certainly is a lot more to discuss.
So I think the best way to stop Lamar Jackson after watching him now for 7-8 years is to actually go back to like the way that Wade Phillips used to play, where you have 3 down linemen, 2 edge rushers, and it basically looks like a 5-2 on every single snap. And what you want to do is either force Lamar to hand off the ball inside to where you have your 3 big defensive linemen, or if he's going to keep it, not go between the guard and the tackle, but have to run way outside, right? And hopefully that's where your corners can fill in and help tackle. I think teams have realized that you can run on Trayvon Diggs and that there's just not going to be a lot of resistance there, right? The other part is the Cowboys just had 4 down defensive linemen a lot, and they were asking their linebackers to fill kind of that outside gap. And too often they were just too slow to get there. And Lamar is so quick that sometimes it's hard to anticipate where he's going to be. I just don't think Zimmer came up with a very good strategy to try to stop Lamar Jackson. I just don't.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think some of it was certainly, performance as well. I mean, like the way that the players were playing, but I agree. I'm still a little confused as to why they did it the way they did. It wasn't successful. And
the other thing I want to mention really quickly, Landon, is that, and this was in your notes, Lamar only attempted 2 passes down the field. And this is what we talked about in the Friday preview. Like, if you're going to lose to Lamar Jackson, lose by him throwing down the field accurately, consistently, 2 passes beyond 10 yards. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Just before we move off this, I want to make sure everyone goes and checks out John Oening's, tweet thread about the run fits. If you really want to learn more about gap exchange versus spill, go check it out. He kind of breaks it all down. It's really fantastic. And to your point, yes, I think this is a conversation about the larger problems with this defense, is that if teams can continue to score big points, they can create big plays without having to throw the football down the field, without having to attempt passes. Again, another game in which, Lamar had very few true pass. Do you have the true pass sets that they have, the true
2.
dropbacks? It was 2. That's what it was?
Yes. 2.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, there you go. And honestly, anytime that you saw Lamar drop back to pass in obvious passing situations, even when it was 1st and 10 and he was in empty, like anytime that you knew that it was probably going to be a pass, the Cowboys actually did pretty well.
Yeah,
they came after him. They got pressure. They disrupted him. Really the most success outside of the broken tackle that Carson had, and we need to talk about Carson in just a second. I think that the most success they had was in the screen game. They didn't really, obviously, like you said, they literally only attempted 2 passes 10 yards down the field.
Yep.
Real quick before we go, we got to talk about overall for the next week. We're going to continue to talk about the game scripts that is going to put the Cowboys on their back foot, unable to rush the passer. That's going to be a theme until the Cowboys find a way to stop it. Before we go, I want to talk about Kalen Carson, because he missed the tackle that caused the not quite a touchdown, but 56
Basically.
yards, I think it was, down to the 1 yard line. Outside of that, I thought he played outstanding. Like, he had, I think, at least 4 solo tackles, if I'm not mistaken, solid tackles after that situation. One of which that was stopped for a no gain where he was isolated on the outside. I'm pretty sure he got Mark Andrews by himself at some point. There was just a lot of really solid tackling and solid physicality play from Kalen Carson that I didn't want to get just completely overshadowed because he missed 1 tackle. And look, you got to do that. There's so many times when you're going to be isolated on the boundary by yourself, and if you don't make a tackle, it's going to be a big play. You've got to come up with that play. Absolutely. But outside of that, 1 rookie mistake, I thought Kalen Carson had a really, really great game.
And that's kind of the thing with this defense is a lot of players are making good plays, but unfortunately, each one of them seems like they're having one bad play, and that one play is leading to an explosive play on offense. They just can't kind of get out of their own way. And you're right, like Carson had a good game. It's just that one tackle is what everybody's going to remember, and it was a huge play, and it sent the Cowboys kind of on this rough road the rest of the game.
Yeah,
I
that
think
really
he's going
was
to be
the
fine.
catalyst there, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think
it
he's
really
going to be
felt like
fine.
I
Well,
agree.
that's the thing is like a cornerback, you have to have a short memory. And I think that's what's so encouraging about Carson is
Yes.
he didn't let that one play turn into another bad play. He played really well the rest of the game. I think that's good for the long term for Carson. It just sucks for that it happened in this game, right?
Just to sum it up for all the rookies, they're going through it up and down right now. I'm encouraged about the long term for all these guys, but right now we gotta have to suffer the lumps as they are still kind of going
Oh,
up and down and up and down.
and this is the trade-off when you start this
Yep.
many rookies early in the season. I believe no team in the NFL has had more rookies play. The Cowboys have the most snaps among all the rookies so far. So you're going to have to expect some bumpy roads here in the first month and a half of the season. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. Make sure you go check out the new Locked On NFL show, 2 shows every single day. Go download our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Check us out on YouTube as well. You can follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.